Thanks for joining us this morning on our extended coverage of this attack at the Bondi Westfield. Let's go back to Shervo, who's actually at that scene still. Shervo, good morning again.
Thank you, Michael. It's still very much an active scene. I've got Scott Taylor here with me, a security expert. Scott, we'll get to the security side of it in a moment, but I just wanted to talk about the feeling here, because yesterday afternoon it was packed with drama and chaos. This morning it's eerily silent, reflective almost, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing people turn up, and during my time here this morning, you see people coming. It's their first time to, I suppose, physically reconcile what's happened. I've had 2 or 3 conversations with people that, as they've come through and lifted their eyes, it's really started to hit them what's truly happened. So I've spent some time with them just to discuss and start working through it. So it's a terrible circumstance.
We're still seeing a lot of activity behind us here. Westfield yesterday was a very different scenario in terms of security. Yep. The key thing, though, was the reaction of the store owners, particularly and the bystanders. Take us through that first.
Yeah, I mean, Westfield have some quite good systems and processes, and during these types of events, to be able to go into lockdown and communicate that. But if you think about the young retailers that may have been working in some of these shops, to have the presence of mind and to be that other people centred, to think about other people's safety and security is incredible. And from the bravery point of view, I mean, they've been incredibly brave. But equally, I've also got to say, from looking at the footage, the parents that have had presence of mind and calmness to be able to make smart decisions and get their families out of there, that's incredibly courageous as well.
We're learning more about the attacker, 40-year-old Joel Couchy from Queensland, relocated to New South Wales. He was sleeping rough. Not a lot of historical understanding of his time here in New South Wales. His behaviour, as you saw it unfold in the CCTV, was there any indication that security here at Westfield could have seen something?
In the footage that I've seen so far, there was no initial indicators with the things that we've seen to be able to have pointed that out, no over-erratic behaviours. But compared to what may be expected with these type of incidents, normally when there's armed active offenders, they're indiscriminately picking targets. And this person had some element of presence of mind that he was selecting who his targets were, and sadly people who would have considered of less threat or less response back to him. And that's why we've had 5 out of the 6 people, unfortunately being ladies that have passed away.
Yeah, well, that's it. Let's talk about the motivation, because we don't exactly understand what it was. He suffered from schizophrenia. We don't know the history of that. What we do know, though, is he attacked the vulnerable.
Yeah, we did. And the other thing is, from the mental capacity at that time, he had the mental presence to be able to still have one hand on the handrail for safety when he was on the escalator, to be having a look and picking at which people he would and wouldn't engage. So, I mean, without knowing the full depth of the history there was still enough presence of mind for some of those items.
The police response was enormous. However, it was Amy Scott, the female police officer, that had to do it on her own with the help of bystanders. But just give us an understanding of the floor plan of this place. It is huge, up to 6 levels across multiple buildings. How hard would it have been, 1, to track the attacker down, and then 2, respond without causing more damage and more loss of life?
Yeah, I mean, to have the calmness of mind during that time, and firstly from the communications over that spread and area, there's multiple elements to that. The communications coming out from the centre, and the general people that, as they're running the other way, are giving directions. For the inspector to be able to have that calmness and control, even from the physical elements, while you've got somebody engaging towards you with an edged weapon, to be able to draw her firearm and fire towards the centre of mass to mitigate the threat. So I won't mention the person's name, to mitigate the threat. Takes incredible calmness and skill, and even their fine motor skills with that. But then to change over into CPR, that's a natural protective instinct. So, I mean, that's incredible.
I keep coming back to the fact that she had a decision to make by herself, knowing that obviously backup was on the way. She would have been reinforced at some point, and questioning whether or not, should I wait? Should I make a call now? That would have been difficult.
It would have been, and whilst it could be looked at from a risk-based approach, and is it safer with support, I think that natural protective instinct, I think it's been absolutely amazing, like the response at every level on how actively she did that. Her presence and calmness throughout, I think, is absolutely stellar.
Going about their innocent shopping, daily lives here. You've labelled this a civilian ambush. Describe that to us.
I mean, everybody here was completely unaware, going about their activities. And this person, regardless of what their motivation was, had this intent. had the intent for kill and maiming your people. That's why they've taken that actions. So it's the same as a complete ambush. They had absolutely no idea as to what was coming.
The result of security now, what happens?
I think there's going to be a lot more discussions around this. I think there'll be it reiterates the effectiveness of some of the drills they had in place about the communications and shelter-in-place elements. But I think the other next part to this now will be even some more focus about behaviours and driving down some more focus to see was in the time that he left the centre and then came back, was there anything different? Was there any triggering moments, things that perhaps we could have picked up or noticed there? Aside from that, I think the focus now is just giving the support to everybody that needs it.
Carrying a knife into a shopping centre, should that have been seen earlier?
Depending, I mean, there can be some elements of behavioural indicators. People that are carrying edge weapons will sometimes additionally touch that area where they're carrying it. It's to verify, validate that that's there. Depending for this sort of blade though, and depending how it was carried, it wouldn't have been overt if it was carried in with pants and you had that football jersey, which we might have been holding it in place as well. There might have been some other unusual elements about his gait and eye gaze and other things as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's such an expansive area and they only have a certain span of control they can do.
Scott, appreciate your time. It's great insight. Guys, as I mentioned, there's a change of feeling here. It really is. The pile of flowers now is starting to build up as the public come and reflect on what happened yesterday afternoon.
All right, Shervo, thank you. And thanks very much to Scott too.